Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Ben. Ben is the CEO of Blue Corona. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So, before 13 years now at Blue Corona, before we get to that, what you've been doing prior to that?
Yeah, I started my career during the dot-com boom in the late 90s at hotjobs.com. And when HotJobs was starting to get acquired initially by Yahoo, I made a career decision and went over to WorldCom. A lot of people listening to this probably don't remember WorldCom, but WorldCom went the way of Enron, huge, financial scandal, which of course I had nothing to do with. I was a sales, major account executive sales rep with the company, one of 120,000 employees affected by it. So anyway, I went from these larger tech companies. Long story short, I eventually went to work for a small business, a small, medium-sized business called Drink More Water. And I only took that job because the founder was this dynamic entrepreneur. His name's Bob Perini. Bob was an engineer by trade, Harvard MBA, and had a reputation for incubating startups out of this bottled water delivery business.
Okay.
So what I really wanted was a practical MBA and to sort of become one of this guy's, sort of an up and coming business leader that if he had an idea or if I had an idea, I could tap him as sort of a mentor, advisor, investor. And 4.5 years after meeting him, that's exactly what happened. Sort of came up with the idea for what is now Blue Corona. We both put money into the company, and again, he acted as like an advisor, business coach, chairman, and I became the president and CEO. So that's kind of how I got here. It's a odd story, but every entrepreneur's story is kind of has that serendipitous,
And how's the journey been so far?
So it's fantastic. It's, I think of business like a sport or a game. I've never really thought of work as work. Even when I was working for other companies, I always thought of it as like a sport. And so it's been great. It's been an awesome ride, taking lots of turns that I could have never, predicted, but led me here, and here's pretty good.
Yeah, interesting. So, okay, let's, trying to make the conversation much more relevant to these times, unfortunate times because of COVID, and it has affected a lot of the businesses, but it has also has been a catalyst for multiple, Zoom being one prime example. So how has COVID affected Blue Corona? And then we'll get down to other details.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that and kind of give you a funny story, maybe for the entrepreneurs listening to this, sort of a stick to your gut. When we started Blue Corona, we made a conscious decision to focus on home service companies, plumber, HVAC, roofer, remodeler, electrician, these home service companies. We made that decision because I was working for a home service company, the bottled water delivery company. 50% of the customers were homeowners. So we were marketing to attract homeowners as clients. Everyone in the digital marketing business, when I would go to conferences, would say, why are you building websites and doing digital marketing for plumbers? You should go after big brands, BMW, Mercedes, Hilton, e-commerce, kind of sexier businesses. But that just wasn't, we've had some big name clients like that, but that was never our focus. It's always these home service companies. I say that because when COVID hit, it disproportionately affected hospitality, retail, a lot of the big brands, big, hotel chains. That was one vertical that when we were starting the business, people were saying, oh, you should go after hotels. The fact that we have all these need-based home service companies, when on March 13th, when most of America shifted and everyone started working at home, all of a sudden you have the whole family at home all day, plumbing, HVAC, electrical issues, handyman type stuff. If you were working from home in an industry where you could work from home, all of a sudden having, the plumber readily available was a big deal. So we have benefited from COVID, as have a lot of our clients who are these essential home service companies.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Interesting. So, and what challenges did you face in terms of managing the company remotely? And then we'll get down to creativity over Zoom. So let's go with the challenges of managing sizable company like Blue Corona, especially in regards to the work-life balance that the colleagues would be facing, or the mental health is becoming a big topic now.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that, and what practices did you adopt at Corona?
Well, one thing that's worth pointing out is before COVID, we were kind of old school with respect to working remotely. In other words, we really were pretty insistent that employees worked from either our office in Charlotte, North Carolina, or our office in Maryland. We had 2 offices, and we had some remote folks, someone who maybe was working in one of our offices and then a spouse got a job, out of town. And we said, man, we don't want to lose this person. So we allowed them to work remotely, but I was not pro work remotely. And I think that came just from the startup days, where when we were in startup mode, I just thought it was much easier when there was an issue, and there were issues every day, to grab a small team of people, go in a conference room with a whiteboard and start hashing out the problems. When people are remote, someone's out walking their dog, another person's not picking up the phone, and there's an emergency or an issue, I just thought it would slow us down. But I think a mistake or a lesson that I've learned through this process is to kind of continually question mindsets and assumptions that you have. In other words, what served us well as a startup, having everyone together, sort of became outdated and antiquated as we got bigger. And so when COVID first hit and we made the decision to go fully remote, on the one hand, as a digital marketing company, everything we have is in the cloud. Our software that we've built is in the cloud. We've always used GoToMeeting, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Slack. We've always used these modern communication tools. I guess probably as a younger sort of tech company. And so I was very optimistic when COVID first hit and we went remote, that we would adapt to it very well. To the part of your question was about work-life balance and the challenges there. I didn't fully appreciate that during the quarantine phase of COVID, when you can't go out to the bar, when you can't, go hang out with your friends, when you can't go to the movies, and you're just sitting at home, eventually you burn through every show on Netflix and you start working, because it's almost like you're bored. You have nothing else to do. And the toll that I think that took on the team at various points is, it becomes clear that people are working ridiculous hours. They're working late nights, they're working weekends. And so the way that we've addressed that largely is, we talk about it, we bring it up and point out that we can see how hard people are working, and that it's great to work hard, and it's great when you feel like your work's not work. Time kind of flies by, but you have to sharpen the saw. You have to disconnect. You have to recharge. And so like there were, we closed early. There were a handful of weekends where we closed the office on Friday and really told people, like, do not send emails to your teammates unless it's an absolute emergency. A bunch of the holidays, like July 4th, we closed additional days. So I think we've tried to raise awareness of it. And I will say one thing, though, that is a little bit, I feel like it's an unpopular thing to say. I personally believe in sort of taking personal ownership of your work-life balance, of your career, of your, just of your life. And so I guess what we look for in people that are on our team is people that are assertive enough, confident enough to say, look, guys, it's 4:30. I started at 4:30 this morning working. I'm disconnecting. I'm going to go for a hike. You can text me if it's an absolute emergency, but I'm taking some time. As opposed to the company having to give permission. I don't know. I guess it's sort of like the regulation versus personal responsibility. I don't take it to an extreme, but we try to explain to people that, look, you're a professional. Get your stuff done. Ask for help if you're having a hard time, and take the time that you need to do what you need to do in your life and and for your health. And I try to lead by example in that regard. Doesn't always work.
Yeah, it can be challenging. Creativity, okay, coding. At Gaper, we have a team of software engineers, but marketing, creativity, so can that be achieved through your home environment, or because creative people they get the energy from the pizzas, hanging out together, so that's what they get. So how are you guys coping with that?
Yeah, that's been I'm in a organization called YPO. I'm in an organization called Vistage. These are CEO peer-to-peer kind of advisory groups, and I hear a lot of people in those groups, a lot of CEOs talking about, it's great, that you can do your work remotely, but that is going to make onboarding very difficult. It's going to stifle innovation, all these kind of things. I'm trying to appreciate that. I'm trying to understand that. I'm trying to appreciate it. There is a part of me that feels like sitting here talking to you doesn't feel that much different than if you and I were across from each other at a coffee shop or in a conference room. The thing that really strikes me that's different is I didn't realize how much I enjoyed shaking people's hands, like a firm handshake, and a coworker that you haven't seen in a while. And so I think that aspect I really miss, the camaraderie of having a group of people in a conference room, maybe too many people in a room, especially for today, and the energy that's created in that. I don't know if that can be recreated, but I also have not made the assumption that we won't be able to come up with innovative ideas, come up with creative ideas, from afar. I'm very sensitive to what I would call projecting, which is where someone has some inner fear that, for example, that being remote stifles creativity. They read an article in Inc. magazine or something, and all of a sudden that is projected subconsciously, in their behaviors. I guess I sort of just think to myself, adaptation is sort of again, it's like you adapt and overcome. We have gone remote, but we have kept, we still have a large office in Charlotte that we're paying for, even though no one's there. And I think we'll take a wait and see approach. But we've onboarded new employees. We've innovated and come up with new products and services, all remotely.
Nice.
So I'm humble enough to acknowledge that maybe we've just got lucky, and that it's going to take a long-term toll. But I'm a little bit skeptical about this idea that people have to be together, in order for culture to be formed, or in order for creativity to blossom. I'm exploring it.
I got that. So last question, any 3 pieces of advice that you would like to give to young entrepreneurs who are just starting out, especially the ones that just started during COVID or before COVID, and who took the leap from left the job or left college and just started the business out? So what advice would you give?
I think number one, which in some ways is perfect for the COVID world, is to, adopt this mentality. We have a saying at Blue Chrono where we say track, test, tweak, and then repeat with the tracking. And so I don't know whether the remote, environment is going to be a long-term thing. I don't know whether the world is going to go back and what it's going to look like. The best that we can do is have metrics in place. The test is being remote, being virtual, and then we will make adjustments based on the data. And I give that advice to entrepreneurs. You should do that with your marketing. You should do that with your business model. You should do that with your hiring process. Track things as best you can, because your gut, we have all sorts of biases that are built in, and your gut can mislead you. So that's number one. Just track everything, treat everything like a test, and then make adjustments based on the data. Second piece of advice I would give is be very careful with what you take from business books.
Yeah.
Most business books are written to sell business books. So when you see an author that has, this is how you grow in this perfect business, just look that author up and just ask yourself, have they done what you're trying to do? Because I would read some of these business books that are written by people that, have actually never really built a reasonably, a decent sized company. They're great writer, great storyteller. So I guess I would encourage you maybe to more seek entrepreneurs as mentors that have done what you're trying to do. And then the third piece is that you need to change how you view problems. In other words, some people think that, when they start their business and they hit an obstacle or they hit a problem, and they associate problem with anxiety, with stress. As the business gets larger, like our business at 12 million, I have 1,000 more problems, and they're much harder problems than I had when I was at 1 million.
Exactly.
The difference is the mindset, and the fact that I have even smarter people than me working for the company, and we work together to solve those problems as opposed to me, by myself. But you can't see problems as these stressors. You should see it like a puzzle, like a game.
True. Ben, thank you so much for the show. And I'm sure we could have talked at least for another half an hour, but my marketing team, we're kind of like cutting them at 15 minutes. But thank you so much for being on the show. All the best with Blue Crown, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you. Be safe.